We'll stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to the Town of Manlius Planning Board meeting for August 25th, 2025. I just want to make an announcement to make sure that everyone who is present here in the room has signed in at the table in the vestibule. We've had some inconsistencies with people signing in, so I'll make sure. Chris, do you mind? I'm just making an announcement. Do you mind signing in?
Sure.
So if anyone else has not signed in, if you could just make sure you please sign in on the table there. Okay. The first item on our agenda is for the approval of our minutes from August 11th, 2025. And I just have one little thing, sorry Lisa, I meant to tell you ahead of time, but I think under virtual attendees, Alex was actually in person. Probably your computer was logged in, but okay, and I don't know if anyone else has anything on the minutes from August 11th.
With that adjustment, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the
August 11th meeting. All right, Rich made a motion, seconded by Arnie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have Aaron? Okay, so we won't have her as part of the. Okay, so let's, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The minutes from August 11th that are approved. Okay, the next item on our agenda is under William Osachowski. Am I saying that correctly? Okay. This is on Highbridge Senior Apartments on Highbridge Street in Fayetteville. And this is a planned development of PUD on for a public hearing. The tax map is number 093.01-05.1. And I remember that you have the structural engineer here first. Okay, and I don't know how you guys want to start. If you want to give some any updates. I know there's some response to the fire department, and we'd like to hear the geotechnical presentation. I kind of want to do all that before the public hearing. So if you guys want to go ahead and
Lisa,
first let them know the public, for the public, what this project is about, and then a brief summary, and then we can kind of go into those other details.
Perfect. If you could just make a presenter of Lisa Wenberg on there, that's actually me. Sorry. And I will share. So thank you for the introduction. I'm here today, Vincent Ryan of Ketchler Freeman Associates, landscape architect. Behind me, I have Anthony Rojas, the architect, Chris Danaher, our attorney, and Joe Keem, as mentioned before, structural engineer. I believe last we spoke, the intent of this meeting was to continue the public hearing. I apologize, doing two things at once. And discuss where we were in terms of updates. So the project has remained substantially the same from last time. We did receive comments from Doug Miller. And from the fire department. So quick review of those comments. We were in agreement with most of them. Chris is here tonight. He could talk more about the easement situation in regards to how we plan on laying that out between what the town needs in terms of access easements, what we're going to do in terms of our reciprocity with Brookdale, and the maintenance of those facilities. There was some clarification.
Sorry, just before you go on, I just want to correct, just for everybody knows, we're not continuing the public hearing. We have not had a public hearing yet. We will be doing it
Apologies.
tonight, but I know it's probably just a miss, but I don't want anyone to get
Understood.
confused.
All right, thank you, sorry. So in terms of SWIP comments and easements, Chris can identify that stuff. I'll call it up next. In terms of the fire comments that we received, that letter came in August 12th. Anthony responded to those, and I gave Lisa a set of copies today of our response letters to that. Hopefully you guys have that now. So that's our written response to those letters. And then, like you said, I have Joe with me today to talk to the engineering part of the wall at the rear of the property. As a quick overview of the project, I apologize, this is like driving and talking on the phone at the same time. There we go. Everybody see that okay? It's different on my screen, of course. That should center up. We have the apartment centered on the southern lot that was formerly the Brookdale facility. We'll have the town road circle come in, Gramercy Circle with our parking spaces. There will be a stormwater detention basin to the rear of the facility. This is going to extend the existing facility that was behind the Brookdale facility. That was the comment I made in regards to the easement earlier. We'll be working that out. Additional amenities include an outdoor patio, the pickleball you see at the bottom right there, fireplaces, and then there's also below grade parking under that building as well. So it's a general overview of the property site. I'm gonna ask Anthony up next just to review the fire comments that we had from the fire chief. And then I'll turn it over to Chris just to give an update on the easements, and then last Joe for the engineering. Anthony.
Sorry, hi everyone. Last week we met with the fire department in review of the letter that they submitted to the town. My response letter was essentially a summation of that conversation and how they, I don't know if they have or will be submitting a secondary letter to the town saying that they're in support of my response letter and where we kind of arrived to together based on their comments. So the first comment, the code that they identified, there are 2 exemptions that allow for that code requirement not to be necessitated. One is fully sprinkling our building, which we will be fully sprinkling our building with 2 systems, both a wet system for all the conditioned space and a dry system for all of the outdoor space. So anything that's covered, the portico share and the drop off from the front entrance, because it's an outdoor system, needs to be a dry system. So we'll be providing that as in that area. And then also in the rear of the building, the covered patio space for the resident amenities, that will also have a dry system. So the entire building will be completely sprinklered. And then in addition to that, the fire department requested a few additional items to assist in that second part of that exemption, which is receiving the fire department approval. So as a part of that conversation, he did want to increase kind of the safety components, and you'll see them listed in my letter there. A second fire department connection that's going to be located one in each emergency staircase on either end of the building. So essentially dividing the building into 2 with direct connection to their hoses from the exterior. He wanted to include additional fire doors within the corridors at each level, essentially creating smoke compartments so that one area of the building catches fire. The smoke is contained within that one section and not spread through the entirety of the entire footprint. An addressable fire alarm system. Because our building is basically divided into 2 sections, or it's kind of a large footprint, he'd love for any detection when the alarm goes off, for him to be able to receive a signal that identifies which end of the building is on fire, so that he doesn't have to identify that when he gets on site. He already knows that based on the call and the information that they received. It's either, you know, north or south, or however we identify the building. So we'll be providing that. He's requested 5 knock boxes, so that's their emergency key boxes, 1 at each doorway from the exterior. So if he has to go directly down into the lower level parking, or either one of our emergency staircases or the front entry door, each location has a knock box that he can open with his fire key and then have access to the building from the exterior at all those points. And then the last request was a stretcher size elevator. So one of our elevators will be stretcher size in case somebody needs to be taken out of the building for any case of emergency, not solely fire, but we are housing seniors and we want that mobility to be incorporated into the building. So we'll be providing that as well. The second item was the stairwells. He wanted them shifted slightly closer together so that his fire hose distance and his limitations have complete access and excess coverage from all points, so we will be shifting those inwards. It doesn't change anything from an aesthetic point on the exterior, it's just a shift in my floor plan. The standpipes, there will be located one in each stairwell. The fire department connection will be located at grade as I previously identified. And then in terms of the fire hydrant, there's one existing within the drive circle. In this plan here, it's kind of at the lower left corner of the drive circle is the existing one. And we will be, oh, you got an arrow there? Yeah, there you go. So that's one there. And then we will be locating a second connection, and we will update that in our drawings right in this corner here. He would like this one to basically be his connection for the left side of our building, and he wants a secondary fire hydrant connection here at this corner to service the right side of the building. So we will be providing that to satisfy the hydrant requirements. The fourth question was about the height of the vehicular drop-off, the bottom, and it's going to be clearance of about 14 feet. Code requires 13.6, so he's good there. And then his no grills comment, his comment was specifically towards allowing our resident balcony areas to have grills on them. So like on the uppermost level or any resident tenant that has private balconies, to restrict no grills allowed in those. But he will allow our centralized resident amenity grill, which is at the rear of our building, that is for any of our residents to use, and it's outdoors towards the back there on grade. So that's the comment that he intended there. So with these additions to life safety, he's essentially said he would support this response and is happy with his comments.
I say that, depends on this, when you start out number one, two exemptions what you were seeking, what specifically are those two exemptions? I can't follow it.
So underneath that section 503.1.1, the two exemptions, you need to have both exemptions to be able to allow for that code requirement not to apply, right? So he needs fire truck access as according to that code with a limitation of 150-foot distance. You don't need that if one, you provide a fully sprinklered building, which we do, and the second exemption is fire department approval of the plan. So with that,
Somewhat clear, fine.
And in
right, so
order to
that
get fire department, these will-
he requested additional life safety items to get their fire department approval, so that's what we did.
And did he respond to this?
He said if you didn't receive anything yet, that he will be, but he already told us verbally that he would. I sent him this letter before I formally responded to, sent it to you. He reviewed it and said, this is exactly what we spoke about, so if you haven't received that yet, you will be.
Yeah, according to Lisa, we haven't, but we could ask for it. Yep. All right, Lisa will ask for a formal response, so we have it. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
In addition to that, to your comment, we're still maintaining the rear access drive behind the building here. It's a reinforced grass surface, so the truck could foreseeably get back there in the event. He asked us to make it a little bit more navigable for him, so we're working on that with the next set. Thank you.
So I'm Chris Danaher, I'm the attorney for the project. I'm an attorney at Hancock Estabrook. So I've been tasked with the easement part of this, but before I start on the easements specifically, it's my understanding and I want to reiterate that Gramercy Circle we're seeking for public dedication. And that's the agreement that we have struck with Brookdale in a written agreement by them. So essentially that is their property and that's what they've agreed to so far. So leading from that, the agreement that we have with Brookdale talks about a sidewalk along High Bridge. So they have already granted us an easement, an easement along High Bridge for public access and the sidewalk. So it's our responsibility to construct that sidewalk in red, running parallel to High Bridge, but outside the right of way, as well as to maintain and repair it. Brookdale really has no responsibility with respect to it. It's all on us to do as part of our project. Also, the easement agreement provides that public and the town and its residents have access and use of the walkway as well. And that's all been agreed to by Brookdale today. The second easement that we've just touched on a little bit is like a connectivity easement. It's a connectivity or construct a little easement that connects the interior sidewalk that results in our sidewalk continuing to their sidewalk. So that I'm expanding the agreement we already have with Brookdale to provide that we have the right to go on their property for a temporary easement to construct the sidewalk on their property so that they connect our sidewalk to theirs. And then in that, and I've already talked to the attorney about it, but of course they have to review it. And then along with that, I've created in this document that will be revised for their review is connectivity over the sidewalks between the properties. I didn't get, not driveways, but sidewalks. So each parcel, Brookdale and our parcel, will have the right to have its residents, invitees, employees, owners cross on the sidewalks between the properties. And as well as each parcel though will maintain its own sidewalks. So it's essentially a reciprocal easement for use of sidewalks. And then the next easement that we are going to deal with Brookdale on is essentially a reciprocal stormwater easement. Right now, the way I understand the title is Brookdale has an easement, a utility easement to the town that partially encumbers our property for their stormwater in their basin. Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
I think Chris is correct.
Yeah, so what we envision now is that the town would terminate that easement because the town won't need that easement. And we're gonna have reciprocal rights between the parcels that allows for the stormwater to be on both properties and service both properties. The applicant will be responsible for construction, maintenance, and repair of the stormwater detention basins and the facilities. Except for, we envision that Brookdale will mow their property, which is inclusive of the detention basin or the land that is part of the detention basin. In that agreement, we'll also have a right for the town to come in and inspect and maintain and repair in the event the party that's responsible, which is essentially probably us, does not do so. So those are the easements. So we have reciprocal rights for stormwater, reciprocal rights for sidewalks, a easement for us and the public across the sidewalk on High Bridge, and then Gramercy Circle dedicated. I think that covers the easements that you guys were looking for, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
What do you think the timeframe is on these?
So the easement's done. I'm sending it. I can send the easement to you guys tomorrow. But you have to understand it's subject to Brookdale's review and approval. But the easement along High Bridge, I don't know why they would have any issue with that, because they already have it.
So, I mean, if we're going on a trajectory where we're gonna do public hearing tonight, probably do seeker and, you know, we'll definitely for that, seeker and potentially site plan approval. The next, like we'll work through it, but maybe in a so do you think you'll have these easements ready, or are we going to, like, they're integral, right, to this process? And I don't think that the town board or anyone's gonna be able to do that until the part is in place.
So I I would expect if I give them a time frame, they'll be pretty responsive and recognize that time frame because they would like this project. They keep asking me this stuff, so I think they're anxious. I guess the answer is that I don't expect that to be held up. I mean, I don't see the issue with the biggest easement was the sidewalk, I always thought, and they've already agreed in theory on that. And putting in connectivity and the stormwater, I don't expect an issue because they're not responsible for it.
Okay, I think, yeah, there's a bunch of these, so let's just pause for a minute, and then I'd like to hear what the board thinks about these easements, any thoughts? Including Aaron, who's on virtual with us. Any thoughts about these easements? Like, sounds like there's 4.
Jamie,
Those that I just uttered.
I asked at the last meeting on the agreements for the roadway and some other things, and you said it's not our business, it's between the town board. These things are definitely.
100%.
Yeah,
Yes.
so have you seen any of that?
I think that's,
What?
I have not.
Okay, I think
So-
before we get too far down this road, you should.
Well, 2 things. I think that one of is bringing it up is it's a lot of effort on their part and people and lawyers and levels.
Yeah.
So we're not obligated, but to the extent that this board is like, yeah, I get it, this is where we're going. I think that's the discussion that Valerie wants to have. Because I can work with Chris, we can make anything work. But
Yeah, any thoughts on the easements and as Chris
in
described?
general,
I would say generally, just a quick thing, I think their concern, if I was on the other side, they already have the stormwater. They already have to maintain the stormwater basin. We're actually taking that off their plate, and we're going to maintain it. Their issue might be with the stormwater construction, but that's away from the roadway, because that was their concern with the sidewalk, that we wouldn't interfere with their business and their operations. So I don't see that as an issue, and again, we're taking all the responsibility from a cost perspective to construction, to maintaining it, and all those things, and they already have that maintenance and repair obligation that they will no longer have. As the connectivity on the interior sidewalk, it has a very small portion. I mean, are you talking 6 feet?
Yeah.
So that's that, and we're, in a way, the parcels are working together, like housing and those kind of things, so I don't know why connectivity of the sidewalk would be any issue. Their biggest issue, I think, was always the sidewalk along the road, and they were very cooperating with that, and that has been signed off.
Are we showing the stormwater and this, we need to scroll down a little or up a little?
So the stormwater as it exists today, just to give everybody the idea.
That one you sent me.
So this is the existing utility easement that the town has. So as you can see, there's a portion of this stormwater basin of Brookdale's that extends onto this site. As a result of the new design, that basin's functionally staying the same, and we're gonna be during a 100-year storm dumping into it. Otherwise, we'd have the infiltration to percolate into the ground here. As you know, this is a gravel pit back in the day. So between this leg here, this leg here, and what was the existing facility is gonna manage the entire stormwater for the 2 properties. They're hydraulically connected, so any time, during a rainfall event, these are all gonna rise and lower together. But again, it's infiltration, so we have the perk rates, to water's basically not gonna be sitting on the site, other than worst case situation, 100-year storm, actually more than that. I think it's like 501 years or something.
And what's existing at the basin is pretty much they mow a lawn. There is no.
Yep,
city
and
lawn.
then maintenance wise.
Yeah, when you say in the easement that they will be, Brookdale will continue to mow?
Oh, the
where-
basin
where's it
on,
gonna-
their portion of the basin on their property.
So they'll continue to mow this section up to their property line. So there's some of their basin here, it
Okay.
extends north to the street to the north here. And then we're maintaining or landscaping the section to the south of that line. And then we'll be maintaining and inspecting the entire facility for both properties.
So we're essentially taking that off their plate to the extent it's on their property that they currently have a responsibility for, and we will take care of all of it, except for mowing on their property.
I see what you're saying.
Yep.
Jamie, I don't know if this site was approved, but we typically grant the town to go on the property to clean it up, repair.
Chris mentioned
Is
that.
that part of that?
That will be in the
It's supposed to be part,
document,
yeah.
Rich. That gives, if the party that is responsible for it, essentially our property, is responsible for all of it. If we don't do what we say we're going to do, there is a right, but not an obligation of the town to come in and do it, and then bill back the responsible party, is.
So Highbridge would be the responsible party, Bill, and Brookdale wouldn't have anything unless.
They really
they're not
would.
mowing it or whatever, then is that?
Yeah, that's the mowing. I guess the only thing they really have is the mowing. So if they didn't mow it and the grass got too high and the town cited them and you went on the site and mowed their property, then yeah, that would be their only obligation as
So
to
it
the
wouldn't
stormwater.
nullify the easement that we probably already have with Brookdale.
I don't know.
The town.
I think we're gonna try to get it, I think we're gonna try to release that in its entirety and get a new one in place.
So that will apply to have the town having to go on the property as well.
Correct.
Yeah, because they're signing that document.
Okay, okay.
And we were doing Christmas Day.
Right, right, okay. Other thoughts? Aaron, do you have any thoughts? No, okay.
I just think those easements really need to be reviewed, so we know what they
Yeah.
say, because it's, and Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, we have very seldom throughout the years approved the intention on somebody else's property.
That's what they reference.
It's typically on their property, not on the neighbor's property. And this, I know this was approved, it's the way it's been operating, but we need to make sure we see the easements, we understand.
With Chris Bryant, he answers all the questions.
Pardon?
With Chris Bryant, he answers all the questions.
No, I think it's a good idea. I think what he's trying to do is great. And it'll help the town, it'll help the detention, but I just wanna make sure that the documents.
But I think we would probably, you're saying you wanna see that before we would even.
Yeah.
Make a decision. Right. So we can lock that in.
They'll be in tomorrow.
Okay.
They'll be- They'll be in Wednesday, based on the discussion,
Sorry.
we had at the last meeting, the intent was we did not provide any updates between the last meeting 2 weeks
Yes,
ago and this
right,
meeting.
Right,
I'm coming in with a package on Wednesday with all updates, including the
including
easements.
the easements and
But
signed by
those will be,
Brookdale.
again, as Chris said, draft easements.
Okay,
They will not be signed by Brookdale.
good. They will not be. we will-
Sign, no, I heard that's okay, that's all right.
Just wanna
It's
make-
important for
Well,
us.
it also won't be
Clarify.
signed by the town, so it's all.
Yeah.
It's all.
We may wanna make some changes.
Right, and that's what I'm gonna tell Brookdale, like, you guys may have comments, and I'm telling, as I'll tell them, I tell them that, you guys, town may have comments, and they will have comments maybe back for you, I'm sure they will.
Mhm.
But I think substantively, I think this accomplishes a lot, obviously for us, but for them too, it helps them as well. And again, I just want to reiterate, because I think it's the most important piece, is the sidewalk along High Bridge. And that has already been agreed to. I can give you the signed agreement on that, but I am modifying it a little bit to deal with all these other things.
It's really difficult.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
With that, I'll have, Joe come up, to talk about the walls, just to clarify from the site plan. The walls in question are the sheet pile wall, we previously talked about, apologies. The sheet pile wall along the back of the building here, and then we do have a modular, I apologize again. and the modular retaining wall along the back of the facility at the base of the existing slope. Hierarchy. Those are just the engineer comments that we talked about, safety comments that we talked about, and then.
It's pretty small up there. Hi, folks. Joe Kime, with Beardsley. Beardsley's been in Auburn for 126 years. I've worked there for 25 years as a structural engineer. So a lot of what we're going to talk about is geotechnical. So typically in a building like this, the structural engineer record designs the foundation, designs any site walls, concrete, steel, wood. And typically we design all those based off of recommendations from a geotechnical engineer. So I can jump right to the wall, or I got like 2 or 3 slides so that I can get a little overview of the geotechnical approach for this. At the risk of your guys' time, I'll quickly go through those.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the project, we as typical of a project of this size, we took a real heavy-handed, robust approach on the geotechnical aspect, and we mobilized several drill rigs. All those dots that you see up there are all holes that we drilled. So we did some clear cutting, and we mobilized and drilled a lot of holes under the footprint of the building and beyond the footprint of the building. Okay, so that's how we started in order to get a sense of the in situ soil conditions in order for us structurally to design the foundation, the basement, and everything that goes with the building. So following that, that was all, I'll say, straightforward results as far as the geotechnical. We engaged CME out of Syracuse here, and they performed the specialty engineering of the geotechnical engineering to give us a written report. Then if you go to the next slide, Vince. So then following that, once we shored up and got the building sited exactly where we were gonna be, we actually remobilized to take one more boring at the top of the hill based on the recommendations of the geotech in order to adequately perform what's typically referred to as a slope stability analysis. So slope stability analyses are even a special, so geotechnical engineering is a specialty, and then slope stability is a specialty within that. So go to the next slide. So then CME had one of their PhDs over there, Chen Li, that's who authored the report. And they performed 2 different forms of slope stability, which is classic of a slope stability like this. There's 2 forms that you check on. One is global slope stability, and one is local slope stability, okay? The global slope stability, and I know you can't read that, but they did the classical engineering analysis of it, and they performed multiple different iterations of the analysis to basically come up with what's referred to as a factor of safety. The end results in the report are that the factor of safety was, they averaged a 1.7, anything over 1 is stable and adequate in classic design, okay? So the global slope stability passed with flying colors, no other concerns to go back from. The next form, and that's global, is when you're checking it for a larger failure where there's mass, debris, trees, that type of thing. So after CME performed that analysis, it's not a concern given the in situ soil conditions, the topography of the site, and the exact existing conditions that we have today. Then they performed a local slope stability. And again, this is classic. This goes back to, a Corps of Engineer approach for matters like this. And with the localized slope stability, it was closer to that margin of 1, which leads you to believe that there could be small failures of small rock, boulder, cobble, that type of thing. I didn't write it in the slide, but they termed it as this finding supports recently observed superficial type minor failures of barren slope surfaces, such as dislodging and rolling of stone down the slope or erosion. And I think that wasn't surprising to us. We stood there and looked at it, and you can see it. There's
there's some scarred faces of the hill there. And it was important findings though, because it basically said this isn't a concern of a slope failure. This is a concern of, upon, millennia of erosion, there could be some small rocks coming down the hill, which gets us to, that's the long introduction to the wall at the bottom of the hill, okay? So then the hill that we're proposing, or the wall that we're proposing at the bottom is driven sheet piling, which, how driven sheet piling works, the top right is just the cartoon graphic of how it analytically works. You drive it down, you get a toe into the ground, and it acts like a cantilever to resist the unbalanced fill, okay? You see the unbalanced fill, the right side of that gray vertical wall is lower than the left side. So right now, the unbalanced fill is in the order of magnitude of 3-4 feet, that type of thing, not, very much more significant than that. And how driven steel sheet piling works is the graphic in the top left. It's basically Z sheets of steel, and they drive one down into the ground with a pile driver, and then the next sheet interlocks into it, and they drive the next sheet down. So they drive this 24-inch sheet down, then they drive this 24-inch sheet down, and they keep right on going. Okay, so the finished product are the two photos in the bottom, right? The photo on the bottom left is retaining, 3 or 4 feet, like at the bottom, at the toe of a hill, very, very similar to condition here. The one on the right gets significantly much taller, and it was just another one to put on the screen. So I missed the previous meetings, so I'm not sure I totally understood some of the questions or the specific concerns regarding the wall. But that was my attempt at going from 0 to 60 at a 10,000 foot level on that wall.
How many feet above grade is that wall gonna be? Right
now, we have flexibility with that. We're thinking right now between 3 feet and 4 feet. So if you're on the high side of the wall,
Okay.
it's still gonna be this high. And that's what we have right now. And that's, that's not part of the structural solution. It's just what we want to run along, right? It's not doing anything except catching the kinetic point load from any small rocks rolling down the hill. So and it's going to do that if it's a foot high or 2 feet high. Right now, we are showing it, I believe in the details, 36 to 42 inches or something around that order of magnitude.
I'm not an engineer, just been around for a while. Once a boulder, a rock, a stone comes down, hits that wall.
Yeah.
Is there a need for maintenance to pull that, get it away from the wall, so the next one has room to hit the wall?
Great question. No, the impact is in the kinetic energy of it, right? If it was a 500-pound rock coming bowling down the hill, the thing that is going to stress the wall more is going to be the fact that it's moving. The fact that it finishes and ends right next to the wall isn't going to impact the life of it. I can tell you one right down the road. I just thought of it on the way here. A couple years ago, we moved the building at Green Lakes where they store the boats, and that's what the basement of that building is, right? And so it was to make the unbalanced fill to support the excavation, and it resides there today and will for all of eternity. But no, I would say structural engineer. If rocks piled up against that for the next 50 years, it would not impact the performance of it at all. Good. I see how you got there though, but.
Like I said, I'm not an engineer.
Yeah. I would tell you from an engineering standpoint, no, it would not impact it.
Sort of the next chapter of that.
Yeah.
What I would call mass wasting debris coming down.
Yeah.
You've got 3 or 4 feet pretty clear, that's retaining wall in 20 years, could you overtop it? You have to think about that. Is that unlikely given the historical, what you see out there?
Because, and it's a great question. The end of that, I would say no, only because we did the global stability analysis. Had we not done that, then, maybe, you know, we wouldn't know the engineering analytical answer to that. But the analytical answer is, we don't see any mass debris piling up behind it. We see the occasional, you know, the occasional cobble that's there, and, you know, over time, things move and nature wins, right? But, if that were to you know, get there, it wouldn't happen overnight, you know? Yeah, so I'm not sure if that answers your
In
question.
connection with that, per the comments from the last meeting, we've updated the SWIP to include language in operations manual part of the SWIP, that wall will be cleaned out periodically as part of the SWIP process. Okay, inspection.
Great question, so.
Yeah, Doug, where are you on the SWIP review?
For Chris's last comments, basically, completely fine. It's like Vincent said, it's a gravel bed, with the infiltration basically, right? And everything Joe described is basically what we've seen over the last 15 or 20 years of people coming in. Slopes are stable outside of stones rolling down. Calm, you know, so this is exactly what we looked at last time we approved the site for another project.
It's always been small.
Yes, yeah, and like Vincent said, I mean, you know, after 20, 25 years, you know, you go behind the wall, need some of them out, but.
So
I
in
mean, the only question I had for Joe was, you know, hopefully there are any big huge boulders in the ground at no below grade, because that would, that's where the plan B, right?
Yeah, well, fortunately, when the design of the wall is such that unbalanced fill is significant weight, right? You take the lateral earth pressure on it, and the reality is a 500-pound rock, 1,000 pounds impact on the top of that wall, it's actually not gonna be the enveloping design of the wall. Meaning that it's gonna work harder every day of its life than it will the day a rock
But
hits.
I think you misunderstood, right?
Yeah.
It's right, if you get down, you're driving the sheets,
Right.
Oh,
and you get down 10
oh,
feet,
sure,
and you,
sure.
right, you're gonna have to go to plan B somehow, or else it comes up and around, right?
Gotcha.
We've all had that happen to us.
That's right. We have had, that, yeah, in situ, you meant driving. Okay, I didn't understand, yeah.
And I mean, right, I mean, you can probably speak to it better than I can, but if your bottom profile looks like this, right? When those all come together, they all work as one.
That's
You
right.
can always tie it back.
You can always tie it back.
Right.
That's exactly what I was just gonna say. And in fact, you can't tell in the graphic in that photo on the right, it's taller. It's got tiebacks on the top of it in that image because something like that might have happened. So it's a fallback. And the nice thing is that, that is a fallback. We reviewed the in situ boring logs in the area of the wall. Blessing and a curse, because it is an old stone quarry, it's actually pretty uniform subgrade conditions, right? So, but having said that, you can always hit a golf cart down 20 feet, you never know.
Yeah.
So, but you're not dead in the water with this type of system if that happens.
So basically, I mean, for the board's application, right? I mean,
Yep.
basically what you would do is, this would be one of the first steps you take.
That's right.
You drive all your sheeting, you look at that profile, you see where you have to tie it back.
Yep.
And then that would indicate what you would do on that back.
That's
So
right.
you keep that total slope
That's right.
in play, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So if you address National Grid's concern at the top of the slope, it's a National Grid easement that runs along the top of the slope, High Ridge Terrace. Is that any concern? It's, I know that everybody who lives up there has a big wooden wall at the edge of their property. As it drops off, suddenly that's to keep the kids from falling on it.
Yeah.
Given the change in the way that we get rainfall,
Mhm.
are you concerned at all that that upper level could be a possible concern for falling away?
I gotta say no, because that's exactly why we had the PhD at CME perform the global slope. So that's why you perform the global slope stability analysis. So we've performed the engineering to confirm that that it's an adequate condition.
Okay, and I know
And I
you
did,
comment-
reach out to National Grid and explain that to them. They seem to be fine with it. You can call that.
Sort of a technical side regarding pile driving and tieback. Could you describe the tieback role for the initiated?
So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. Basically, they mobilize, if they have to, they mobilize a rig that instead of drilling down, it can drill horizontally at an angle. And basically you torch a hole in the sheet pile and then you put, think of a big round screw.
Sometimes the timber walls are the ones that go, or even stone walls sometimes.
Yeah, this would be a steel,
Perpendicular thing that goes parallel into the side.
that's right. But this would be a steel round screw or a helical anchor. And it would depend on what the conditions are that we encounter. It's very common. A similar building under construction right now down in Ithaca. It's a much taller wall and a lot of tiebacks.
Okay, I know Aaron wants to speak, just one second, Doug, I just want to clarify, when I asked you about where you are with the SWIP, you said you were waiting on Chris's comments?
Yeah, the majority of the comments that I had on SWIP were
Or
basically.
the easement?
the easements.
Oh, okay, all right, I just want to check, okay.
Vincent explained it.
Doug provided a list. Most of it was clarifications in the SWIP, which will be addressed Wednesday's submission, and the rest were regards to the easements, which will also be addressed in Wednesday's submission.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Erin has her hand up. Have it down, do you still want to speak?
I do, I took it down. I have two questions. One of them, since it was brought up, we had talked about having potential small debris that accumulates behind the pile or behind the sheet piles being the removal and inspection of how much is there would be covered by the SWIP somehow, which would be legally binding. So I don't have a recommendation on how often it should be checked for debris accumulation and removal, but I'm sure that our engineer could suggest something for that if that's, something that we want to incorporate. And then I know that the material on the surface of that slope is different than what we would encounter on a lot of slopes that could be revegetated, to help with erosion. And a lot of the modification of that slope could either probably detrimentally, potentially impact the recommendations based for the structural engineer and geotech. So is there any opportunity, would you be willing to suggest anything that could be done to that slope, either, mechanical or vegetative, that would help to reduce or eliminate some of those small localized failures?
It's the intent in Wednesday's submission. We provided some planting within the, obviously, we're not gonna go too far up the slope. Obviously, we don't wanna impact it anymore. There's no reason to bring material up there. There seems to be natural plantings that are slowly taking over, but within the immediate vicinity of the rear of the wall. You'll see in Wednesday's submission that there's some additional plantings at the upper part of the wall to be planted to reinforce that issue and prevent some of that debris from settling at the base of the wall.
Okay, has anyone checked that against, because sometimes going in and messing with those slopes can actually make worse things happen. And so I was just curious if there was a recommendation in the geotech report about whether those should even be attempted to be vegetated or modified.
Yeah, going up the slope, no, it would not be a recommended approach, mostly because the best thing it has going for it now is the time that it's seen settling and doing what it's doing. And anything that is done there would be a disturbance to it. And so other than the planting immediately behind the wall, it would not be recommended to start going up and disturbing anything going up that slope.
And that's
Okay.
specifically behind the boulder wall, the lower here, which has also been designed because of the excavation that will occur behind there, that will provide some planting at the top of that slope. Behind the sheet pile wall that can also be accommodated, like Joe said.
Okay, so just a little bit along the edge, and then the project won't touch the existing slope in any other way other than how nature kind of reclaims it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Do you have anything else, Joe? Okay, any other questions for Joe? Okay, thank you very much. Language team, do you have anything else to add? Okay. I'm gonna ask if the board has any other questions before we proceed with the public hearing. Okay. Lisa, did you post the notice for the public hearing? Yes. Okay,
I'll make the motion to waive the reading of the notice.
okay.
Second.
Motion made by Rich, second by Artie to waive the reading of the public hearing notice. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries to waive the reading, and now I'll take a motion to open the public hearing.
Will we open the public hearing?
I think Judy beat you to it, actually. Motion made by Judy, second by Dawn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is open. So what I'm gonna do is we'll go row by row. If you are here to speak about the Highbridge Senior Apartments, we'd ask you to come up to the podium. Please state your name and where you live. And you'll have about 3 minutes to speak, and we'll continue. If there's anyone online, we'll ask you to use the raise hand function, and then we can promote you to speaker at that point. Okay, so is anyone in the first row?
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm Rich Bonus, I live on Highbridge Terrace, and I had a question for the engineers for tonight. And I don't know if this is the forum, but there was some discussion at some point of connecting the sidewalk, we granted the easement, to the other side of Dartmoor Crossing so that people can actually escape this property and go into town. I didn't know if anything had moved on that. I know there was a discussion of who was gonna pay for it. Was it gonna be the town? Was it gonna be this project? Is that not part of the discussion tonight? Is that for another day or?
Yeah, so they're gonna do the sidewalk, they would be doing the sidewalk that is on their property and Brookdale property.
Right.
The intent of the town and the town board is to increase the walkability of the area, so slowly but surely. So sometimes you hear a sidewalk to nowhere, but
Yeah.
we have to start little by little. So
Okay.
we as the planning board too have been helping with every time proposed development comes in, if they can do their part for the sidewalk. I don't know exactly, I know they're working actively on more sidewalks
Okay.
all over the town. That specific site, I know that the intent is to definitely continue it, but they're working on grants and different
Okay,
funding
so
sources.
that has nothing to do with the scope of this project, but the
But
town's
no, it's
aware.
just gonna help the cause, basically, yeah.
Okay. And the only other thing I had is, I know they did a traffic study, they had a speed thing, but we never saw any results. Will those be made public so that we know? They did a baseline traffic study because the concern as neighbors is they're quite a number of parking spots. I don't need to rehash what we've already talked about. Is that it's basically gonna be the easiest thoroughfare to get to here. That way you can avoid the three-way stop, you can just take a right-hand turn. It's much easier. And so I know that they had a speed thing down at the end of the hill a few weeks ago. And I think Jason put it down there. And they're also gonna do a counter to get they did put a counter across from Huller Pond to look at the day-to-day traffic numbers. Because as residents, really, that's our biggest concern is
Yeah,
Is the
I'm
traffic
not
study.
aware of the recent things that you're talking about specifically, but that would probably be a better question for the town board, or are you talking about the police chief put something there, is that what you're
Yeah,
thinking?
so maybe it was the town board. I remember they said, well,
Yeah.
we can't do it now because they're all being used.
Yeah,
And then they were up. So
Yeah,
they
I
did a traffic study
I'm
on
not sure it
Highbridge.
has any relation to this
Okay, so
specific
that has to be
project.
more the town
If-
board.
Sorry, it's the town board, yeah.
Okay.
My suggestion would be to reach out to them. I know they do have a meeting on this Wednesday,
Oh, okay.
27th, and there's
Okay.
always the open podium at the beginning of their meetings.
Yeah, or
So-
email, I think. email.
Yeah, and you could ask in either of those settings as well, but
So that would not be zoning then, that would be town. The only reason I'm standing here really is to be on record so that, you know, if all hell breaks loose when this does happen, we have some sort of recourse, but that would be with the town, not with the zoning board.
you guys had the
We do have
traffic,
traffic, that should be provided, I can certainly show it,
yeah.
off the top of my head, I don't remember what the seconds were, but there was a time gap for the amount of, population that was here to get off of Mercy and get onto High Bridge. And
Rich, it looks like, online with town, the applicant hired a board staff there to
Mhm.
do a traffic study.
Okay.
It looks like it was done in, I'm looking here, I don't have all the data here, but, so August of 2023.
And so that's good before the project's done, then do they do a follow-up to see what the effect of the project
The
is?
town could.
The town
could
could.
if they wanted to.
Okay, so I would address it with the town then. I just wanna be on record so that
Yeah.
we have some sort of recourse later.
Yeah.
Once it all goes through, that, oh, you know, we never talked about it, well, we did talk about it, so, okay.
Yeah, so
that
there is
would
a baseline here.
Yeah.
GPS consulting,
Okay,
which you can't go.
okay, but to take it up with the town board, not the zone. Okay,
But
great,
if you don't mind, grab that,
Do it
so
online.
in your file,
terrific,
that would
thank
be
you,
a baseline.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Appreciate
I
it.
can also note to the town, I can also send an email to the town board too, just letting them, making them aware
Yeah.
that there were these
I mean, it's one
comments
thing to do the study,
tonight,
but
so,
it's really invalid because the project's not done yet. Right, really, now we have a baseline, we can compare it to what the real-time difference is.
yeah.
Just as a clarification, this is not the zoning board's planning board.
Is the plan, okay.
I heard you say it a few times, I just wanna make sure.
You can tell I don't show up in many of these meetings.
That's okay, that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah, anything else?
no, that's it,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else in the front row? Okay, and then no, not in there, that's actually, anyone in this front row? Go ahead, come on up.
My name is Bill Gray. I was the city engineer and superintendent of public works in Ithaca for 30 years, a licensed professional engineer. If you've read any of the letters I've written over the last 3 years to the town board, copied by the planning board or to the planning board directly, you know how I feel about the project. So I thought tonight I'd just take your position and try and think about what I would ask you to pay attention to. There are, I believe, 11 copies there. I think there are 10 people on the board. First, actually, the first couple of things you probably already had some input tonight. The traffic study that is currently in the town's hands is the original one for 78 units. It's not been updated for the proposed project. If you've looked at any of the traffic counts that the state DOT keeps, you know that Route 92 and Route 5 are the major arterials. Probably, well, the street past the town mall, Burdick Street, is kind of the next here. After that comes High Bridge Street and the Fayetteville Manlius Road. And High Bridge Street carries more traffic than the Fayetteville Manlius Road. They're both kind of residential collectors. So I think that it would be useful to have an updated figure for the traffic study. Fire safety was the next item. You've already, I guess, addressed that. In Ithaca, a building this size with this kind of occupancy would have a road all the way around it. Apparently, you don't handle this. I guess the fire department does. And if they find they're satisfied, I'm not, for personnel safety issues, but they get to make that choice on that. wastewater, the limestone Meadowbrook plant's overloaded, and I believe it's operating under consent order. I've not seen any resolution for the offsets required, but I heard mentioned tonight that apparently there's correspondence going back and forth, so presumably that's going to be resolved in some manner. The driveway, the developer wants the town to take over the driveway as a town road. It's not capable of serving as a town road. Town traffic will never drive on it. It doesn't provide the fire department, EMTs, or the police department alternate routes to approach an incident or accident, nor does it provide traffic an alternate route around an incident, which I actually just saw this last 3 days when traffic had to reroute around the fire on Hybrid Street. It does not allow garbage trucks, snowplows, or mail deliveries a choice of routes to improve their efficiency or to respond to conditions on any particular day. This is a driveway for 2 commercial properties. The Wegmans driveway serves multiple commercial properties and is not a town road. Have you spoken to the highway superintendent? I have. The town's liability, maintenance, and taxes should be reserved for town functions. National Grid has written you a letter expressing concern about their transmission main. Their right-of-way is centered on the property line, and they have a 40-foot right-of-way. If you look at the slopes that are shown in the topography, the top of that slope actually goes all the way to the property line, which is 20 feet into National Grid's right-of-way. So they have a right to be concerned. Slope stability, that brings us to slope stability and quarry stabilization. This should have been resolved 35 years ago when Bill Capolino said he needed to have commercial zoning approved so he could afford to reclaim the land. The regulations for reclaiming a quarry were written in 1975. Bill said that he'd reclaim it in the spring. Well, actually, it was in February of 1990. It's in the town minutes. He did not build the proposed project that would have occupied the whole site, and apparently the town did not make him follow through with the reclamation at that time. Since you're currently dealing with the Kinsella Quarry expansion, you know or have access to the regulations for reclaiming a quarry. The developer submitted a slope stability report for 1 point at the closest approach to the developer's proposed structure. They did not address the taller banks deeper in the quarry, which have homes, swimming pools, and electrical transmission mains at the top. I was surprised by the factors of safety outlined in the report. I did find them after several hours of searching in the highway design manual. They're similar to those used for steel or concrete structural design, which are products that can be tested to failure as often as necessary to be confident that the factor of safety is real. You can't test slopes to failure to find out if you were right in your design. As an example, bridge beams are designed in bending using half the strength of the steel, a safety factor of 2, while their bolted connections are designed with a safety factor of 3 to 3.5. This is because in bending, you might expect to see a sag in the beam and it would warn you it's overloaded. Connections don't give you an indication that they're overloaded. If they fail, the structure fails. Soils, in my opinion, are similar to that. In the connection, if the connection is a pinned hinge, a single point of failure, then the factor is commonly 5. Cables and ropes similarly use 1/5 of their breaking strength as their usable load. In the AASHTO manual, safety factors for a bridge footing on soil is 3. A pile foundation can have a safety factor of 3.5 down to 1.9. You only get down that far if you've done extensive testing and actually tested piles to failure.
Common road construction calls for a slope of 1 vertical to 2 horizontal, 27 degrees, as a stable embankment supporting a road or a cut in a gravelly soil. The embankments supporting a major roadway are generally built to this standard. This is what Route 81 adjacent to Rock Cut Road measures. However, the DEC regulations for reclaiming a quarry allow 1 vertical to 1.5 horizontal, or 33 degrees, with a 25-foot offset from any property line or right-of-way line. This is about what the uniformly graded bank that was analyzed in the report is. As the report indicates, it will be subject to shallow slope failures, and the project is proposing a retaining wall. The 100-foot banks deeper in the quarry appear to have a toe out approximately 150 feet, which would comply with the DEC requirements of 1.5 times the height. However, the toe is out 150 feet because the steeper bank is eroding, giving a parabolic shape to the current bank. You can see the sloughing of the material now that the forest is gone. It will continue to erode over time until it reaches an angle of repose, stealing soil from the top of the bank, which is already at the property line or well into the right-of-way. The erosion may occur in the next 5 years with the help of our increasing storms or a hurricane by supplying a great deal of water, which is not part of the current analysis for stability. Or it may occur over the next 200 years with the help of winter snows and freezing thaw, but it will happen. I left my name and address at the top of this, and I included the graphic from the DEC showing the 25-foot buffer from the property line or the right-of-way line. And it shows the mining limit that would be involved for a 60-foot bank, so the toe would be out at least 90 feet. One of the things that I found in researching the analysis that was done for the slope stability is that the method that's used, which is done by successive approximation, as he said, and they did it over and over and over again, which computers are happy to do, and came up with a factor of safety showing about what would be there. And that actually meets the criteria for that type of analysis. It's a very uniform slope. It's level at the top, level at the bottom. The other portions of the bank, if you went elsewhere in the quarry, it is not a uniform flat shape. It's a parabolic shape. It doesn't meet the requirements that would be there for reclaiming the pit. And if you believe this, you'd have to go 25 feet outside of Niagara Mohawk National Grid. They're 20-foot right away from the property line. So you'd be out 45 feet, and then the bank would go down from there. If you don't do that, you, to my knowledge, make these decisions, I would say that you would want to have at least the 2-on-1 that the DOT uses for stabilizing their banks. And the DOT uses that with a substantial distance from the pavement. They have their own setbacks. They have the shoulder, and then they have an additional distance from the shoulder to the top of the bank. They're both, I think, about 10 feet, giving you roughly 20 feet. And that, I believe I heard Mr. Rossetti say that the town board deals with the driveway. A year and a half ago, the town board told me, they brushed me off and told me that was part of the planning board's decision.
No, it's
Yeah,
actually, it comes down to, the town board is involved, but the bottom line is, Rob Cushing, the highway superintendent, if he doesn't sign off on it, it does not become a town road. And he's looking at specifications and other things. But what you raised here is interesting and it is concerning, you know, in the driveway language that you put there.
Yeah,
So,
well, yeah, I think just, thank you so much for all of this thorough information that you gave us. I wanna definitely have our planning board engineer review all this new, information that you presented, so that he can take the time to look through all this as well as our planning board engineer. And then he can review the comments, and if he deems that there are any additional questions that he has or would like to discuss further with the applicant, that we can do that.
I
So,
don't mean to put you in the situation of dueling engineers.
no, but that's why we have a public hearing, and why we have an engineer on the planning board, for all of us. Well, I'm an engineer, but not a structural or technical.
I'm not.
Or other non-engineered folks, so no, thank you very much for the thorough and the feedback,
it was helpful.
yeah. Thank you.
And again, if you want any backup or to understand the information I was getting this information from, I can supply it. I spared you the very long version that was the first version with all of its backup and all of
Yeah,
the copies of all of the stuff. So
Sure,
I am open to your discussion if you want it.
thank you so much, thank you. Yeah, I do think that one thing that he did point out, which is very important without even diving into look at, is the traffic study was, we realize now, we remember it's for the smaller.
Yes.
So I don't know what the board feels about having that updated,
It should,
yeah,
I would recommend it.
I think it needs to be
Of course,
updated, yeah.
Also the years that it passed.
Yeah, couple years, few years, okay. Is there anyone else you would like to speak? Come on up.
Tough to get up after knee replacements.
Oh, yeah, especially after sitting that long.
Right. I have to say, that's a tough act to follow. With the lead up. Tom Bassett, retired real estate lawyer, town resident since 1979, live about a little over a mile from the site. Visit the Brookdale facility Sunday mornings. The best 10-minute volunteer activity I have is delivering the Eucharist to the Catholic residents of the facility, totally irrelevant to this application. But anyway, I do have to say that listening to the proponent's engineer and the gentleman that just spoke reminded me of my failure to comprehend calculus, which was the basic tool into the engineering field. And that resulted in trashing that and backing into law. So I'm envious when I hear engineers speak. So basically, I'm a proponent for the approval of the site plan. I was a proponent of the original planned unit development when it was called Garden Park. It was revived. I don't think there ever was a site plan process for that.
Sorry, really quick, it's a little hard to hear, I just wanna say, did you say you're an opponent or proponent?
Proponent.
Proponent, and then you were an opponent?
Proponent. No, I was a
You've
proponent.
always been proponent. Okay, sorry.
My
I just wanna make
articulation,
sure I'm
you know,
hearing
not to say something personal here, but the absence of teeth in
No,
the
it's
aging process.
also the units, it's like.
And proponent, I was for the original plan unit development, appeared for and spoken at the public hearing for the revised plan unit development. There is now that was approved earlier this year, and now there's this application for site plan approval. So basically, I've looked at the site plan review documents to the extent that I have any
capacity for comprehending them. And there's a list of drawings that specify what each drawing is, the purpose of each drawing. And those are self-evident, but they involve preparing the site, controlling for erosion, and ultimately things like lighting, planting, trees, all good. And also the amenities that are proposed for the project are useful. Even though I don't play pickleball, but some do apparently. Pickleball for cola, fire pit, and then there's also a patio. So I did learn from the engineer that spoke that that the sheet pile, I couldn't, without knowing anything about it, I thought, how are they gonna drive a massive sheet down into the ground behind to sort of fortify that slope? Well, he's explained that there are segments that get driven and then bolted together. So that makes sense. You can do that with, I guess, a standard pile driver system. And the other items in the overall plan seem to be adequate parking. The sidewalk has been negotiated, which will be ultimately beneficial, and hopefully it can ultimately be connected to the village sidewalk system, so somebody can actually walk from this project or the Brookdale facility into the village and potentially to stores. So otherwise, basically, I'm a proponent of the project, of the application for the site plan. And what this will do is basically complete the, if it's approved, complete the redevelopment of the quarry, which some people remember what existed originally before the Brookdale facility. There was a building, I think Agway was there for a while, and then that was demoed, and the Brookdale facility was built. And now this would complement that. The two things are naturally beneficial to one another. There are potential relatives, friends of residents at Brookdale who will rent units in this building if it's approved. So all good, but if this list of problems can be overcome that the gentleman just recited, and the project gets done, I think it'll be a beneficial thing for the town. It will add to the tremendous shortage of affordable housing, along with the Twin Ponds project put out on Burdick Street. The two together will add about 400 or more units of housing to the town. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, would you like to say?
My name is Margaret Mulvey, and I live with Mr. Gray directly across from this proposed site. And I think this past week, the experience that we actually had with the fire at Wildwood Ridge was a big eye-opener. And my concerns all along have been the fire lane around this building and the lack of it. And I do know you're making, modifications that the fire department is requiring. And I'm somewhat relieved to know that they are standing firm in that they want space, enough space on the backside of this building.
Sorry, if you could speak this way to the board and also because of our.
But just that the ability for the fire department to completely be able to come around that building. I know sprinkler systems are supposed to work and they're supposed to help, reduce a fire. But there are extenuating circumstances always with fires of buildings like this. And you're talking 100 or more people living in this, elderly. And just seeing the damage and how much damage was done before the fire department could even get water on it. It just terrifies me, thinking of people trapped in a building of this sort with that kind of conflagration going on. And I do hope that the fire department itself and the developer are conscious of the lives that they're responsible for. Money isn't everything. That's all I'm concerned about. I'm not approving this thing at all.
Thank you.
I did just like to briefly hit on just two of those points. As a licensed professional, the first primary thing that we're responsible for is the life and safety and welfare of all occupants of our structures. And that's the number one priority for us in designing things. I'm not a developer here. I'm a licensed professional working on this project, making sure that the safety is there for all occupants. In terms of fire, this occurrence, it was actually, we talked about the fire that was up in Beeville that was very similar to the fire that we experienced here. And we spoke with it to the fire department. The biggest issue with those structures, one, non-sprinklers, but two is the attic space with the trusses that allow for any fire that penetrates in through the roof space, that unoccupied attic space, the spread and the ability to access that cavity is impossible in the way structures were built before. This structure, we don't have those attic spaces. All the volumes of any of the pitched roofs that we show up above is volumes that open into those rooms, so we don't have that cavity of space. And with the flat sections of our roofs as well, we don't have that attic space. In addition to that, all of our exterior walls are rated for 2 hours, 2-hour fire rating. All of the interior corridors and the walls that separate each of the unit are 1 hour. So all of these are essentially at a minimum 1 hour fireboxes in each apartment, so that if a fire were to occur in one of them, it would be contained for a minimum of 1 hour before it had the ability to spread to any unit outside of that, which gives sufficient time for the fire department to respond to a call and deploy action.
Are those
So,
code requirements?
Those are code requirements, and we're providing that. So every single one of these units are essentially its own box within this entirety. So I think we're meeting the minimum, we're exceeding the minimum in terms of fire rating, especially the exterior wall being 2 hours. If any fire were to penetrate, say, a window opening, many times fire can bleed and hit a unit across. We've designed that wall to be a 2-hour rating on the exterior to give even more protection to those units from the outside. So I completely agree with you that this is what we're here to do, is protect all residents.
Thank you. Is there anyone online? Downey, if you can unmute yourself, if you would like to speak for the public hearing.
Okay. Hi.
Okay,
Yes, this is Downey across the street. I have a question. First of all, there was no indication of what's happening on the 4th floor. It's hard to see with this drawing. I know there were different drawings, and now with the 104 apartments, is it full apartments or there's other things happening up there? It's really hard to see with these drawings that were provided just recently. And my other question is also about the apartments themselves. How many of them are for rent and how many of them are for sale? Is it for sale and rent? What is the plan of the developer? Do people that essentially rent it or buy it can have their kids live there? I probably will know by the buses coming across the street and seeing the kids coming up on the buses. And their age, but I'm just wondering who is really monitoring this population in these buildings, and how do we know if it's, who's buying it?
Okay, could you state your full name and where you live?
It's Michal Downey, on 5144 Highbridge.
Okay, thank you, I just wanted it for the record. I don't know, Anthony, do you want to respond to her questions?
So all the units are completely rented. There's no units that are for sale. So they'll all be rental apartments. They're all geared towards 55 years and older senior living facility. They're all independent seniors that'll be occupying this space. There's no intent to have any children occupy this building. We've spoken to the schools, the school district, and they understand that there's no effect on schools from a children's perspective because the occupancy won't increase that quantity. So
Then I think she had a question about the fourth floor, what exactly?
fourth floor is fully residential. There's no amenity space up on the fourth floor. It's just apartments.
They are rented,
Second,
they will be rented.
they're
Those
all
upper-
rental. Yes.
I thought that there was some talk about them being,
The only difference is that some of our
private condos or something like that.
no condo. So the only difference is the affordable housing units will be dedicated to Brookdale facility for their residents to come. So there may be a shorter term rental if their spouse is not occupying a full month or, a year, whatnot, whatever the term is. So they'll get a special circumstance based on who's occupying the facility next to us, but they're all rental units.
Yeah, I'm wondering, based on the age.
Well,
Yeah, the PUD isn't real clear. And you even said things now, oh, some of them are gonna be for the Brookdale, and they may be short term for the Brookdale. And, I guess if you can just, Chris, I'll ask you to just put that in a format that we can rely upon, and then we'll talk about where that might go. Like, does it need to go in the covenant against the property? Do we want the town board to, have that somewhere? Do we want it on the map? So,
I'll discuss that with the applicant and I'll provide you a written document for your review.
yeah, and again, it doesn't have to be, but something, because we are hearing different things, right?
Just wanna make sure, yeah.
Yep, I will give you documentation on it and take a look at it. Sure.
Okay, Mikhail, did you have any other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have someone else. Okay, if anyone else online would like to speak, if you could use the raise hand function. Okay, and I just want to make sure no one else in the room, everybody else.
When Anthony was up, there was one other question I had for him in regards to grilling.
Why don't you come up to the podium?
You mentioned there was going,
Yeah, just because our microphones, and
Okay.
then people online can hear you. Yeah.
earlier there was, regarding the fire and grilling on balconies and everything. Those upper apartments they have their own open area up there. Are they also required not to have grilling up there? Okay.
Yeah, we said all units,
Only,
Yes,
I know.
Yeah, no, so we assured the fire department that all private balconies, all the units that have access to an outdoor space, the ones on the fourth floor, and there's even some on lower levels that have some extended, some outdoor space. None of those units will be allowed to have grills out there. The only location is out in the rear patio. On the lower level, we will have an outdoor grill space, but all the residents have access to that one space.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I don't think, apparently we don't have anyone else online. So,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
okay, motion made by Rich to close the public hearing, second by Arnie, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, the public hearing is closed, thank you, everybody. Okay, so does the board have any other questions? Because we've got some things to do, our engineer has some things to do, the applicant has some things to do, Chris has some things to do. Any other questions from the board, or any comments? Okay, so, I know you guys are planning on submitting something for Wednesday, you know, obviously, if things change, we can't get everything in by Wednesday.
We'll have everything you talked about, outside of the traffic study. That's not gonna get turned around in 2 days, so we'll provide that as
Yeah,
a
I
supplement,
don't know,
at a later point when we have that.
if Doug wants to look at that, do you think you'd be ready, if they submit for Wednesday, do you think you'd be ready for the next meeting, or do you need more time to review what came in tonight?
Well, this will be okay, but I think it's said we're gonna keep the traffic stuff. I don't envision any problem. Coordinated the time to work on updating.
Yeah, I think he's on vacation.
Yeah, all right.
It's gonna be the biggest thing, right?
It's a lot of stuff, yeah, even if they do get it all in,
Yeah, so we'll see if we'll see how it goes with time.
the intent is to keep it moving, so.
Okay. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Wait, we forgot something.
Oh, yes, we did.
No,
I'll let you. We did.
we're not doing it tonight.
No, we're not doing it.
But we are going to do it, so that was our guess. The application being in the name of a new owner, does that happen? Right, there was,
The actual
You actually sent it?
revised application.
Yes, we gave a letter to Lisa, just taking Bob Maloney's name off the, as the applicant.
okay.
Do we need a revised application?
I'll look at the letter.
Bob Maloney hasn't been involved in the project really since its inception, and we were just basically updating applications.
It's the same company,
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed,
No,
just people.
it's an internal change in the company.
Yes.
Okay, and who is
And who would
signing
do
that?
And then
it's
that
the
would be
same
the
owners.
landlord.
Bob is not an owner. Bob was never an owner, he was only the owners are the same.
I think what happened, Bob filled out the initial application in his name, even though it was always gonna be, it was an LLC. The LLC purchased the property, Bob Amodi is no longer a member of the owner of this property.
Okay. So original applications in the name of Bob Modi,
I believe so.
but for quite some time, we've been referring to it as
Hybrid.
and the owners are, what's the name of the ownership group?
William Mosikowski, I own it.
Okay, you are the personal owner.
Correct.
So it's not an entity.
No, he's the sole member
Full member.
of the entity.
What is the entity?
Highbridge
Senior.
Senior Living
Living apartments.
LLC.
Okay.
But Jamie, that's never changed.
I think it
No,
would,
I'll look at the-
I think it would be good to have a revised.
We'll provide a revised application that clarifies it,
Yeah,
just to.
Yeah,
put
that's
it in
easy.
with
because I think the
That's
memo
easy.
came in with Old Road Development.
What's that?
I think the memo, I don't have it right in front of me, but I think it's at Old Road
I'm
Development.
involved there too.
So I think we just need some, well, let's get them all.
Yeah,
let's get them all
We'll send
fixed.
you
Let's
an
get them all
amended-
clarified.
Now you know what it means.
We will provide an amended application with the correct name. Do you need the internal membership ownership of it, or you're just,
I think we'll do the revised name and it would be helpful if that was
okay,
on there, okay?
sure.
And then same thing for Hope, but it's the same LLC, well,
No.
No,
No, different.
no, not hybrid, but
same theory, you want the same thing with Hope,
there we go.
Well, if we, yeah,
same
So then we-
process.
Yes.
so we know
Okay.
what we're talking about too.
Sure,
Right.
Okay,
I don't know how that application was originally submitted. Okay,
all right,
it's been so many years.
If you need that, Lisa will have
Yeah.
it existing.
Okay.
get with Lisa.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You didn't know.
Okay,
Thank
we'll
you.
move on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Okay. The next item on our agenda is Elias Sabasi, Lodestar Energy LLC. This is a concept discussion for a solar array on Do Good Road in North Eagle Village. There's two tax map numbers, 099.01-14.1 and 099.01-12.1. And so like I said, this is on for concept discussion only, so he has submitted some materials, but do you go by Eli?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah, I go
so
by Eli.
Eli, if you'd like to explain the project to us.
Yeah. Well, the audience is left, but definitely appreciate the sophistication of some of those comments. It was, interesting. And so this is a lot simpler of a development. And I know that you have been through this with CVE and also the Chaparro site. And so, appreciating that those sites are there, I wanted to come in and just, briefly introduce the project. I provided, Lisa, thank you for facilitating. I provided a cover letter that I hope you've had a chance to read. But by way of brief introduction, I am with Lodestar Energy. I'm a project developer, and I typically handle the first half of these developments. And I have a colleague who handles the second half, and so it's my job to greenfield these projects on behalf of Lodestar Energy. We're a 20-person company, and we have a headquarters in West Hartford, Connecticut, and a satellite office in Manhattan, where I work. Again, we're 20 members, so we're a small company, but we've developed and own and operate 125 megawatts of solar and storage capacity. So this site is, as you mentioned, Valerie, it's on Dukeweed Road and North Eagle Village Road. Two parcels, but with solar really only being proposed on one of the two. But we have a purchase option to purchase with Miss Ann Kelly, who I think was on the planning board for some years. And so I also wanted to give a quick shout out to you all and everyone who worked on the comprehensive plan. Given that we are proposing to purchase the land, it's encouraging to have that proposal in a town that has such a forward-thinking plan and really, it was rational. And I'm noticing themes that I read in that plan surfaced tonight in the discussion. So the reason that I'm here today is because I've sort of teed up a lot of elements of this project, of this deal. It would be the real estate and the utility interconnection. And I think we're all clear on a lot of the elements of the code, except for one, and that is the saturation clause. And so, I think the original intent of the saturation clause was to avoid solar arrays that would be co-located or within 1 mile of one another. And, given the CVE sites, given that it's multiple, I think, up to 3, and then there is the Chaparro site across the road, it has created, in effect, something of a solar corridor. And so my suggestion is that we complete the corridor by building a final array on this corridor on Ann's land here. And I'm here to seek any comments or feedback from the planning board on whether or not, these specific findings can be found, that the additional placement of another array would not adversely affect the character of the property surrounding the proposed array. So that's why I'm here, and I'm hoping, that's all I have for prepared comments, and I'm hoping that you all had a chance to read the cover letter again, and that we can speak about it now.
Okay, I'll open it up to the board for comments. John, if you want to speak, go ahead.
Somewhat new to this compared to other members of the board. And I think, I'm not sure when the town put in a solar page section of the zoning.
Yeah.
And so I'm not familiar with what philosophical issues that town may have been working on in the saturation component. Because you sort of have this interesting conflict in your letter where you're proposing that a solar corridor current is a attribute, meaning a bunch together. We have a saturation standard for the town saying a bunch together isn't what they wanted, they want one apart. So, is anybody here familiar with what the town, the succeeding conversation was, is why saturation is in, and what was seen as the detriments of not having a solar corridor, but to food saturation. I don't know, so what history do we bring to this in terms of the town's intent that we need to sort through, I suppose, if we are more going to go into something like our applicant self-confesses to be a solar corridor. Trying to, we're really at 2 opposite ends of the barbell here. What was the?
I'll let
The rationale.
Rich
Yeah.
and Arnie, I would say, that are here tonight, probably know the most history. But I will also say first that I think, so the saturation rule and this piece by kind of piecemeal development of solar in the town.
Yep.
All happened before the comprehensive plan.
Right.
And then the comprehensive plan came in, for which we now have guidance of future land use. And so I'll kind of let Rich though explain more of the history, because he was around for that.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan, is encouraging residential in this area.
Low density.
Low density,
density.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I'll talk about the solar regulations that were put together. And they were probably, it's 2015 or 16. We started to get interest in putting solar up in our town. And at that time, we had absolutely no regulations at all, nothing on solar. So John Loeffler and I tried to do the best we could to put some regulations in place to kind of answer the question of what we wanted then. And obviously, that was 10 years ago, so lots changed in that 10-year period. And I encourage the town board to take a look at those solar regs and update them, because we were using information that we had at the time. And John and I reached out to a lot of people, builders, regulators, anybody that we could get some information from to put those together. So, okay, after probably 2016 or so, they were adopted by the town board. And we didn't want exactly what we're talking about here. We didn't want solar corridors. We didn't want solar projects close by to each other. And we even talked about something more than a mile. We're talking about
aesthetic concern? Was it the sense that
we just didn't want,
damages
yes,
the framework of the flow of land in Manlius?
Yes.
Okay.
you know, we didn't want people driving down roadways and seeing nothing but solar. We wanted to have different uses and different views. It was more of a view idea.
An aesthetic.
Yeah, when we did it. So we settled on a mile. And, you know, could it have been 5 miles? Could it have been 3 miles? I don't know. But that's what we settled on when we wrote the regulations. And so I think, personally, I think the town of Manlius has done more than its fair share on getting solar projects in the town, probably more than any other town in the county. And I would like to stay with the mile separation from an aesthetic standpoint. And I know, I think the regulation says community character or something, but yeah. You know, I think a mile is reasonable, and that's, I'm coming down, I don't like this project, and I'm opposed to it. Based on the map. So does that answer the question, Ed?
In general, yes.
Okay, all right.
No, John, do you have other thoughts, or you want us to come back to you?
Well, I think everybody has a thought, so
Yeah.
There's a sense of regret and loss that we don't have, family farm or rehab farm anymore. Activity that comes with that, for old people, that kind of sticks in your brain. I know some of those properties are probably rented out for profit. And letting that go, time, social structure, economics, a number of things, just put the stake in the heart of that concept 20 years ago. Unless it still carries an echo of how land use patterns in upstate New York, the flat quality in upstate New York, and for better or worse, so farms don't contribute to that. So that's kind of an emotional.
Yeah, and one of the things that, I'm not gonna say that, what was difficult for us to come to a conclusion was the solar project on Salt Springs Road. I don't think you were on board.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, and we turned that down because you couldn't, there's no way you could block the view of that.
Is that the one on Paul Chapero's land? It's just a little ways north.
Lisa's pulling up. Not
Yes,
yet.
yes, by the church.
Are you talking about that one, or are you talking about the one?
Yeah, by the
We
church.
did not approve.
Am I talking about what?
You talking about the one we did not approve?
Correct. Right on the corner of,
Salt Spring.
Salt Springs and Hanover, no, not Hanover, no. It's a street that's next door.
Right.
Salt Spring.
Yeah.
What is it,
Salt Springs and
Clinton, thank you.
Oh, yes.
So I think we need, my opinion of this board is that we need to do a better job in protecting the view shed and the land that we have left. And not just let it get gobbled up in solar projects.
Yeah, so Lisa put this graphic together.
Yep.
Eli, I don't know if you've seen this or not, which, for those who haven't seen it, shows the current Dugan Road solar in yellow, and then the North Eagle Village solar green, and then this proposed site would be the purple. I know for those who weren't on the board at the time of I wasn't on the board at the time of the North Eagle Village solar, but I do know some of the history of that. So that one came first, and then, no, it's town.
Is it a mile separate that from what they do?
No, so
No.
I was on the board for that one. That one, that was pre-comprehensive plan. However, we came to a decision as a board for that one because it was, apparently it was, land that was difficult to develop otherwise. The developers had looked at it in the past. For residential, but also it was extremely well screened.
I agree,
Yeah.
it's astonishing amount of acreage.
Yeah.
Being built, like right by the entrance, I go, I never seen that thing.
Yeah, so that's where, so we
It's kind of
approved it, and
Okay.
what's the word I'm looking for the saturation clause.
Exception.
We made findings,
Big
yeah, that it was okay with the saturation. So obviously, this site is within a mile of both of them.
Yep.
So,
No,
so that's why we wanted to get thoughts, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the irony is not lost on me. It's ending up to be, given that an exception has already been granted for the other one, it's something of a 180 from what it seems like the original intent was. My argument is that, if we just look at this thing head on and think about where solar ought to go, if we're gonna address the hosting capacity of the nearby substation, which if you accept the premise, that's the premise that I'm working with, that it would arguably make more sense to have it in a visually screened site where nobody's gonna see it, as opposed to, around the town where people are gonna see it directly. That would be my objective. That's the reason I'm here, not to propose sprawl, but it seems like actually I'm proposing the opposite. It it's a lot of solar and it's co-located, but the objective is to not have anyone see it. And, you know, there is an opportunity to put another array there, so.
So my first, like, my thinking with this is that now that for so long, we were looking at solar projects coming in here a lot, and I think, yes, the town has a positive position when it comes to solar and clean energy. But for so long, we were waiting for guidance, which we got now with the comprehensive plan.
Yep.
Where, as I think Rich said, that it's the future land use of the comprehensive plan is low density residential.
Yep.
And in close proximity to the school, and where it's located in the town. I'm not sure that it would be appropriate for a solar corridor. So those are my thoughts. I know Aaron is wanting to speak. We're also getting the street view for this property, the general area, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that the piece for the water
I think
tanks
it's
are in the
further
background?
over there, I
Yeah.
think past this house. right?
Yep.
So you don't really, I do know, you mentioned in your real character setbacks of that less than 750 feet. On this map, it can't be more than 250
Yeah,
Yeah.
here, the most,
yeah.
this corner too.
That letter should be updated with to match that site plan. So I just want to make sure that that's correct. But you're correct that it would be 250 feet. Yep.
So, before we let Aaron, Judy, do you have any, or like, to hear your comments? If you have? Okay. You're neutral. Okay. We have another board member who's on virtual with us tonight. So she has her hand up to speak. So Lisa, can we, yep, okay. Yeah, just unmute Aaron, and then can we see her? Oh.
I was gonna say I could wait until it's a better time.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll keep this fairly short. First of all, I think that we have guidance documents that show us how the town and the residents would like to see things moving forward with the 1 mile distance in between and the comprehensive plan showing low density residential there, especially since residential and single family homes is something that you know, we're being encouraged to consider as a larger part of development here. And I'm not up on my current definitions of spot zoning, but I would be curious if our advisors could make sure that that's not something that we would be getting into if we were to encourage this. You know, going into your cover letter, I was making some notes about things that, you know, I would like either more information on or, you know, the backup that you might have, because it promises a lot of information to be provided should you get the go ahead to put money into the project to get that far. But there's a lot of like things that are said to, you know, comforting things, you know, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this grid, you know, one preserves rural character, fully decommissioned at the end of its useful life. And we've talked a lot about this stuff and projects that we've seen come before us. And I, for one, would really like to see a more robust decommissioning plan where we utilize not just let's turn it back to grass or plant a few trees there, but how could that land then be rolled back into, you know, something that is really beneficial and something that the town might need. And the next part you've got minimizes, you know, part 2, the middle bullet, optimizing distributed generation due to favorable proximity to the do-good substation. Is this something that you have that's documentable? You know, I don't know. I'd like to know more about that. Yep. And then number 3, the final bullet about redirects away from sprawl, smart growth, you know, these things, a lot of these are kind of buzzwords sometimes. And so I'd like to hear more about how you kind of see that going, even though I know you haven't put a lot of time into developing that as far as a presentation part. And on the upside, you know, something that I've been hearing a lot about in our community, and I haven't had a chance to get caught up on what the town's position is on this kind of stuff, but I think that there are some needs for recreation opportunities, and, you know, in trying to provide, you know, good business deals a lot of the time will provide something that the other person really would like to get so that everybody wins. And, you know, I think that that could be something that would be an incentive, of course. And we really need a pool in our community, I think, and is in my personal opinion. Some of the things that are included in the final one are things that I'm not sure are things that could be beneficial, because I believe we have a tree inventory already. I'm not sure that we could accept seeker training for, you know, I don't know if there's legality with that kind of stuff, or that offering engineering input would be something that would be appropriate. So, you know, those are the kinds of things that I have questions about, but may not be worth you putting time and energy into answering at this time, depending on the rest of the board's feedback. And I'm a little bit concerned. I do not understand a lot about how the farmland stuff works, but, you know, we have different levels of farms and different things like that. But there's a bit of a conflict in some of the documentation where it's referred to in several places as agriculture and in rotation and, you know, that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, I'm not finding the exact language now. I think it was in some of the secondary paperwork attached to the application, maybe. Yeah, so it's restricted agricultural. This is the special permit application, which I know you probably just submitted a draft. I don't know if it was just so we could see it. And it talks about agricultural field, agricultural rotation, and then that they would be coming on site quarterly for vegetation management. And depending on, you know, where that goes, you need to deal with that a lot more than just quarterly. So I know that a lot of those things are things you probably will explain a little bit later. And then you talk about it's open fields, you know, those kinds of things. And then the contradictory part is where in your closing paragraph of your cover letter, you talk about that there's no farmland loss. So I'm curious how that, how those things are rectified. And then I would need an education about the tax revenue, how that factors in, and also, are there tax incentives and tax breaks that you would be looking for this kind of thing? So I do have a lot of questions. I'm not expecting you to answer all those at this time. I know it'll be on record, so you can go back and look at it if we move forward. But bottom line is, I feel like we have several ways that the town has communicated to us that how they would like to see these things going forward. And I don't think that finding loopholes or exceptions where we can call it beneficial should negate the fact that there's been a lot of time and energy that's been put into this. And it's pretty clear that that it doesn't meet the standards. So that's my personal opinion only. Thank you for listening to me all in one shot.
Yep.
I'm all set.
Thank you, Erin. I guess I don't know if Arnie, does Arnie want to say anything?
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Eli, my objections to this are twofold. First of all, I'm concerned about tying up a piece of land for 30 or 40 years, even if it does come back to its original state, as it always says it will in the contract. The second thing I object to strongly is that it doesn't do any real benefit to the town in terms of its assessed value. Because NYSERDA, as the action arm of the state of New York and its infinite wisdom, asked all the assessors for their inputs on how should we assess these things. The assessors gave their inputs and NYSERDA just ignored them. NYSERDA gives the town a pathetic pilot. Doesn't let us negotiate it. It's negotiated by the IDA county. And all they know how to do is give away money. So we end up with a piece of land which has no value to us other than maybe $15,000 a year.
Okay.
That's what the pilot amounts to a mandates.
Okay.
For a solar farm.
Yep.
And when it finally becomes a property that we can assess, say 40 years from now.
Yep.
NYSERDA has rigged the discount rate so that its assessed value is so low that it's practically worthless. If you put a factory there, if you put an apartment building there, if you put any kind of commercial building there, the assessment would be enormous. The benefit to the town would be tremendous. I'm just talking as a finance guy. This is a terrible deal. It stinks from day one. If you understand finance, you'd never put a solar farm in a place like Manlius. We can do so much better than that. The other thing is, from the engineering point of view, it's generating electricity when we need it the least. It's not generating electricity when we need it the most. It's not a very good system. Since it comes from the sun. Syracuse, New York, and Manlius, two of the cloudiest places in the country. It's not a good investment. And final point, when the interest rates went up during the 2020, 22, 24 era, before we got a handle on it, people who were trying to finance these things couldn't make it work. It makes no financial sense to the developer, which is why we have approved more solar farms than we've seen built. The developers walked away. They could not make a deal. The bank wouldn't give them money because the payback didn't make any economic sense in those rates. Other than that, I think it's a great idea for young kids. I've lived in this community now for over 60 years. I've seen the changes. I like most of them. I don't want it to go back to what it was in 1963 when I showed up. But I think we've done a pretty good job. I think the comprehensive plan has given us a lot of help. And I think low density residential makes a lot more sense than another solar farm.
Sort of follow, I put a solar system on my house myself. And I started out, this is really neat, and it does, it erases, I pay for no electronics once out of the year. So one sense. Exchange OpEx for CapEx. I'm still not sure if that works, but now the system's there, so I don't go back to the issue. And I said, what's the point of solar if you don't have a battery system associated with it? Nothing for our base load issues. Here I am with my investment, I live in my panel, I'm happy with what it does. But in terms of what works well for our system wide, I'm still hoping that still need it 4 months out of the year. And I was looking at the same number of levels. Why isn't there a requirement for battery backup or something where these solar arrays, which becomes the problem, do not have an obligation? If you're doing it in the battery systems, they play some role.
Confirming.
Offsetting baseline when the sun's not shining.
Yeah.
And I knew there was something unhappy or peculiar about the real property tax situation. But we don't want to get out. Now, absent that knowledge, I looked at this, well, see where price this must be, looks like a fixed asset to me, so it looks like it's accessible, so it looks like, okay, there's zero public cost with this. We got a school system that needs money. On the financial side, this has to be positive. $15,000 a year. It's farcically.
I would have to look at that. I'm not familiar with that number.
I can't, and county IDA negotiates all these, they have given that.
It's
So they apply to that, that's where it's delivered.
when they sell you the idea, it's 15,000, then they multiply that by 30, now it's $450,000. And I remember one evening having a discussion with one of the developers, it's like this, and I said, I'm gonna have to challenge you on that $450,000 because 30 years from now, the $15,000 payment that you're gonna make in that year is gonna be worth about $900. So you're telling me that, I said, if you gave us $450,000 up front, you'd make a much better argument. She wanted to do that.
So it's 15 to the county, there's some overlap with school districts and the county. I would be very interested in knowing exactly what the tax context of this is. Right? When I'm looking at the state of happy ignorance, zero public cost, gonna be invisible from the street, at least while leaves are on the trees.
Mhm.
The land, it'd be interesting if this was developed for the conversations, how many of these parcels on this picture remain agricultural, when you say farmland unaffected, are these farmed by third parties now under leases for crops?
Mhm. Yeah.
And what sustains that statement in terms of the picture of the actual development process?
Right.
Currently doesn't require separate access road on the salt spring when you bought the property, which serves the water tank, so some of the things that non-invasive, and since you don't see it, the idea that there's 24 acres of solar panels where you can't see them, how emotionally effective is that? And a number of times I go up and down that street on my vehicles or on my bikes. Probably not so much, but it's not providing material economic benefit.
Get the same economic benefit for two houses. That should get with that solar. Solar tax.
Well, I have my own issues with large site housing. I think it's astonishingly inefficient. Yeah, I know it happens, there's a market for it, but I see these things on their 1 or 2 acre lots and I go, how do we build roads that infrequent service? We created this historically, and I need to go off into this, there's a whole series of issues come up. So I don't sit here saying, never in my lifetime would I support this. Right down, there's so many things just so unknown and I can't come.
Yeah, we would need to clarify the tax numbers.
I just don't like the idea of tying up land with a bunch of plastic on top of it.
Yeah, so I had Lisa zoom out a little bit on Google Maps if everybody looks at the screen and just, again, keeping in mind the comprehensive plan, and the proximity to the villages and the school, the high school and the other schools. I think I'd be opposed to an actual solar corridor for this space in Manlius. It just doesn't make complete sense with our comprehensive plan and with the location in the town. So that's kind of where I sit for final answer.
That's basically why you say you want some feedback, right? But that's right. You got it.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know if anyone else has any other comments.
I do want to say is that, that since the comprehensive plan was implemented, since then, the town board has also implemented that plan PUD law, which would make this property available to a higher density development. If the town board so determines.
And I think like Rich was saying, we've got a fair amount. We've got a lot of solar we've heard from the county and, everything with more housing. So, without mentioning future projects, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if anyone else has any other comments. Aaron?
There's a hill one.
No, I mean, I talked about a lot of stuff in there, but I'm generally not in favor of it in this location at this time.
No, I was just gonna remind people to look at that saturation section. The specific words, there got to be specific findings by the planning board that such placement does not adversely affect the community character of the surrounding properties.
Yeah.
Those are words.
I think we've surrounded the surrounding properties with enough solar.
All right.
Any other?
No, I mean, I naturally, I would want to clarify the tax context, but, I'm hearing the feedback and I appreciate the time. I really do. And, to come here and get comments, ahead of time is helpful. Saves us money.
You should talk to Mr. Duffy, our assessor.
Yeah.
Give you the actual numbers.
Yeah, with the CVE sites, it's 15,000 per project.
That's.
That trickles down to the town.
Dribbles down to the.
Yeah. Yeah.
since the tax are slightly higher than median. Good sized house.
Yeah, that seems low. Okay. Okay.
None of that land is in the ag district. It's not very common in the town. None of it currently. Unbuilt.
Are there any, plans
I don't
or why
I don't think it is here.
Yeah.
in there?
I appreciate you taking the time and waiting,
Yeah.
during the meeting as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. No, I don't have any
I'll
other
make a
business.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion made by Rich, second by Arnie, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, meeting is adjourned. Thanks, Sarah.
Hey, everybody, good night.
Good night.